Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional. Recommendations. The following program contains mature situations and themes and is intended for an adult audience and may not be suitable for younger viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, everybody, to the Health Revolution. We are extremely excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and no matter which way you're tuning into us, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. Today's episode is important because it is an example of fortitude. Having the optimal life is not only the physical piece, but it's also that emotional resilience and the mental mastery. And this is quite the riveting conversation we're about to have with a guest that I'm honored for us to have today. First, take a look at this video. Let's get to know him. Meet Keeper Catran-Whitney, author of Helplessness, a profound narrative that intertwines the Whitney family's rise to musical fame in Los Angeles with the courageous unveiling of dark family secrets that lurk beneath their success. As the family captivates audiences and shares stages with musical legends, they also grapple with deeply personal challenges imposed by their stepfather, Willie, which remain hidden from the public eye. Helplessness not only chronicles the Whitney family's external achievements, but also underscores the immense bravery required to confront and share their painful internal struggles. Keeper's storytelling brings to light the significant impact of having the courage to tell a story that many families keep hidden, emphasizing the healing power of openness and truth. As we spend time with Keeper, we will explore the critical importance of his decision to tell this story and the support that can come from such transparency. His powerful testament illuminates the struggles behind the success, but also celebrates the bravery required to speak out and help others feel less alone. Keeper Catran-Whitney, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate this conversation we're about to have. Now, for our audience who is not familiar with your family's backstory, take us back to the beginnings of how the musical rise took place and what the grounding of that looked like.
Okay, just so your audience know, this is going to be a pretty challenging conversation, and it can be triggering for some because we will be discussing the topic of child sexual abuse. So just so you know, it could be traumatizing for some. I think it's important to say that right up front. I come from a family of 10, 4 boys, 4 girls. My mother and stepfather, we were very poor growing up. I went to 11 grade schools before I graduated high school. I lived in 21 different places before I moved out. We were homeless 3 times. And in the midst of all of that abject poverty, we needed to find a way to make money. So my mother, who was a singer with her brother and her sister, decided one day when we lived in South Central Los Angeles to ask us kids if we wanted to sing, because that could bring in some extra money, because as a family, you're more valuable in that sense. So we started singing, and we started doing some great things. And then one day on a Saturday, we were singing, and we were building up our career in Los Angeles, and the phone rang. And my mother goes over to the phone and says, "Shh," and we're listening, and she just says, "Who? What?" And then she looks at my second brother and says, "Michael Jackson's on the phone." Yes, that Michael Jackson. So he goes over to the phone. He says, "Hello." And a couple of minutes later, hangs up. He says he's heard of us. He says, "Keep going. You guys are amazing. I understand you guys are just like us. Keep going. You'll make it one day." Jump cut to 1977. We are doing everything. We've made Billboard magazine 3 times. We're all over the world. We are about to sign the largest new artist contract Motown Records offered anyone. This is 3 years after Motown had lost Michael Jackson in the Jackson 5 to Epic Records. So imagine that. In 71, Michael Jackson calls this poor family and says, "Keep going." And 6 years later, we are about to replace them at the legendary Motown Records. So the week that we are going to sign this contract, my oldest sister screams upstairs, "Boys, come downstairs, family meeting." We come running downstairs. I'm like, this is it. We are about to go from here to here. I like to say, Adriana, the bus was outside. The door was open. The engine was running. All we had to do was step onto the bus and we were gone. But when I got downstairs, my 3 youngest sisters were huddled at the far end of the couch and they weren't saying a word, which was absolutely amazing because they were always talking. They always had something to say. They were always laughing and joking. But earlier that day, there was a lot of slamming of doors, and I didn't understand what was going on. My sisters were going in and out of bathrooms and bedrooms, and they were like angry bees just buzzing. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Oh, it's just the girls. Who knows what they're tripping about this time? So I go into the living room, and as I said, my 3 youngest sisters, the 2 youngest are twins. I have another one who's a year older. My mother has 8 kids. We're all 8 years apart. I'm at this time 16 years old. And it was just weird. I entered the living room, and my sister's pacing the archway, and she's agitated and she's mad. And I'm thinking, okay, but she's always mad. There's always something going on. Maybe she and my mother, they were at loggerheads all the time. But it was weird. The energy was just weird. My 3 other brothers were already in the living room, and I'm thinking, what? Do they have any idea? They're just looking around at our sisters. I have no idea. So I just sit down. Why isn't everyone happy? Why isn't everyone excited? We are about to reach all of our dreams, have all of our goals just right in front of us. A couple of minutes later, my mother and stepfather enter the room, and my stepfather goes and he sits down in a recliner, and he immediately bends over and does this. I'm like, what the hell? This is not right. My mother walks to the front of the room and she turns around. And my mother is pretty effervescent. She's very bubbly. She's always got this personality, but she's stoic. And then she scans the room and looks at her children. I'm a brother, and I have no idea what's going on, but unbeknownst to me, my sisters do. My mother is about to speak the words no brother could ever prepare for. The words no brother ever expects to hear in his life. She says to us, your stepfather has been molesting your sisters for years. What just happened? We were so incredibly tight. All we did was sing and play together. We didn't gang bang. We didn't smoke. We didn't do drugs. We weren't running the streets. We weren't doing any of that nonsense. We were tight, tight, tight as brothers and sisters. But she just said something that I couldn't comprehend. My mind just started spinning. Now, California, we're known for our earthquakes. We have them all the time. But emotional earthquakes are very different than physical earthquakes. Emotional earthquakes, you almost cannot come back totally from. You can heal, you can go forward, but it becomes part of your DNA. And when it becomes part of your DNA, it can be self-replicating in ways you are not prepared for. And it has this impact and influence on your life that there's no way you can even project is going to happen. So that was earthquake number one. This all takes place in a 10-minute span when I'm sharing. My mother then says to us, I have known all along. What is going on? I'm catching snippets of liquor store, apartment, this sister, that sister. What? Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This is not what I'm expecting to hear. But my sisters were expecting to hear it because they were already the victims of it. And they are the ones who pressured my mother and stepfather into sharing with the boys this day, the week we are about to sign the biggest life-changing contract in our lives. That's earthquake number two. And then earthquake number three hit. And for me, the most devastating one of all. For my three brothers, the most devastating one of all. Our oldest sister spins around and points at her four brothers and says, it didn't happen to you. It only happened to us girls. It didn't happen to you. You can't talk about it ever. And like that, relationships between brothers and sisters that were so tight, they lay on the living room floor in shambles. We were broken. We were a mess. It is often said that no one outside your family can break. Most families believe that. And most of the time, it is absolutely true. And most of the time, it's not the people outside you have to be concerned about. It's the people within your family that causes the most damage or has the potential to do so. So here I am, a brother. My world has just broken apart. And the people I need to speak to the most just told me they wanted nothing to do with me. What was I to do as a brother? In the conversation around child sexual abuse, there's one group that is never, ever considered. We're the group that no one asks if we need help. Do we need to talk? Is there anything we need to help us? No one ever asks the brothers. It's as though our feelings don't matter. They're shunted to the side. They're just tossed away because you are almost viewed as gawking bystanders of a story that is ripping your family apart, and it doesn't happen to you, but in fact it did. Long before we knew anything about it, it had already infiltrated our family and was already having an effect on me and my brothers. We just didn't know about it. So when it happened, after a while, there was silence. My mother whisked my stepdad away. She was helping him escape. And there was silence in the living room. No one was talking. And then eventually we got up and went to our rooms. And I just remember walking, not really knowing where I was going. It was just one of those moments you're just going somewhere. Anywhere but here was the place to be. And as I got to my bedroom, it was like entering into a maelstrom. It was just a swirling of emotions, of anger, of betrayal, of shame, of guilt, because how could I not know something like that was happening in my family? How could I not know something like that was happening to my sisters? But that was a part of the plan all along. So, as I said, when you have the situation, what do brothers do? Unfortunately, there are millions of books, stories, articles, documentaries, movies on the impact of child sexual abuse and sexual abuse against women. They're everywhere. And historically, men need to own that. But when you have this conversation where everyone else is having the conversation, brothers are the taboo. We are the last bit of the conversation that no one wants to talk about. And so my journey became a 45-year journey to reclaim my self-esteem, to reclaim my self-worth, because trust me, there were some woulda, coulda, shouldas that I did not do along the way. And how do I go from being a brother who didn't know and being a brother who could have done some things and waited years to do things to recapturing the love of my sisters? How do you do that? Uh, because me and my brothers, even though once we learned about it, we were still afraid to talk to each other about it. So the question becomes, what is out there for brothers? So I wrote Helplessness, which is the emotional health challenges brothers experience once we learn our sisters have been sexually abused. It is a story, it is a brother story. It is considered the first story on the topic from a brother's perspective. What I like about it is I'm incredibly vulnerable. I give up everything. And oftentimes when I speak to women about it, I'm often told, well, time out. Yeah, you're giving the brother's perspective, but you don't really understand. Until I tell them 6 years earlier, before my sister started being sexually abused by my stepfather in 1971, in 1966, my older brother and I, we were sexually abused by our babysitter almost daily for 6 months. So I understand both sides of the story. I understand being the damaged and I understand being the collateral damage. So I do have this perspective that is kind of a full circle view. And with my book, because we're able to come so far and the things that I had to do to get here, three of my sisters contribute after all of this and the trials and tribulations that we went through. Two of my brothers contribute. So you get a full family view of what this is. It's pretty dark. It's pretty gritty. But Helplessness is part of a 3-book series, from helplessness to hopefulness to happiness. I'm writing hopefulness now, and I'm so happy to be writing hopefulness, because the dark of helplessness is it needs to be shared, but it weighs on me still to this day.
You're telling a riveting story of what life was like and what life has been like, and it extremely powerful. I'm curious, when the family meeting came to be, what were some ways that you found you were coping versus the ways that you looking back needed to cope, the processing of what was going on?
In the immediate aftermath, and even for years, there was the challenge of trying to cope for me. And I come to learn it from my brothers, because we had no material out there. There was no one we could go to. There was no family members. See, part of the challenge is the people we needed to speak to were the people causing the damage. And they also happen to be the most powerful people we know, which is usually the case for children. The most powerful people you know on the planet are your parents. So as an adult and as you grow, you begin to accumulate different influence, people of influence who you can go to. So there was really no place to go. We just had to keep quiet for years. Most of all because of what my sister said. You can't talk about it. And the impact of those words on brothers, on men, are so incredibly powerful because we're already afraid to approach and talk to our sisters. And then when we are told flat out, don't you even step this way. As the process moved along, one of the things that immediately I thought made it easier was my mother saying she would handle it. So as a child, you're like, okay, you're going to handle it. You're going to do this. So oftentimes my sister would say, but you were 16 and 17. How come you didn't do this? And how come you didn't do that? Those are the easy things to say. People will even say, if that was me, I'd have done this. If that was me, if I'd have done that. That's all noise. You don't know what you're going to do. Adults typically cannot handle this conversation. How is it a bunch of children are going to handle that conversation? So my healing, to answer your point, it took a long time for me to figure out who I am because I went 9 years before I did something. And that something happened to be 3 months before I got married. I knew if I was going to get married, I could not leave him around our house, around our family, because my mother had brought him back in. My mother's about image. She's about her image and how people are viewing her. So part of the betrayal by her was one thing, but when you're a brother, there is this sense that you know you should be doing something, someone else is going to handle it, but that in and of itself is betrayal. It really is. And it took me a long time to understand that because even as this, we were trying to figure out, my sisters and brothers and I, we were still trying to create something because we were contractually bound to do certain things. And we just couldn't get rid of that. So we had to keep trying to make something work, knowing that our relationships, they just weren't going to be the same.
We're gonna
So
we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Welcome to today's Fit Bite. We're diving into the essential world of sleep. Now, it's not just about quantity, it's about quality. Good sleep is the cornerstone of your health and it impacts everything from your mood to your metabolism. So first up, stick to a sleep schedule. Consistency is key. Hey, I know sometimes I'm guilty of this. Aim to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. Now, this helps your body regulate your body's internal clock and improves the quality of your sleep. Next, create a bedtime ritual. So whether it's reading, taking a warm bath, or practicing gentle yoga, find activities that signal to your body, hey, it's time to wind down. Avoid screens before bed as blue light can disrupt your body's natural sleep-wake cycle. Lastly, make sure that your sleep environment is inviting. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Invest in a comfortable mattress and pillows to ensure that your body is supported. So remember, good sleep is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Prioritize it like you would for any aspect of your health. Sweet dreams, and stay tuned for more Fit Bites.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Keeper Catran-Whitney, and he is the author of the book Helplessness. And we are talking about from helplessness to hopelessness to happiness. And this is a powerful conversation we're having in the fortitude and the courage it takes to confront the past that families can sometimes face in learning and in growing from overcoming challenges such as abuse. Now, I have a copy of the book in my hands, and Keeper, you were talking about before the break, the transition and how you had to come to terms with where you were, the processing, the fact that here you were facing the insistence of your sisters and the silencing of your voice, but the complexities of your experience and what you've gone through. I'd like to read one portion of your book on page 64, just to share with our viewers. Chapter 7, as you start, you said here, small paragraph, I've come to realize with much reluctance that the energy of our past is a force that we can never entirely escape. Our past is a veil, an unseen dynamic that continually influences us every moment of every day. We might be able to suppress it. We might be able to run from it. We may be able to put it in a mind box and tuck it away far from our consciousness, but it is a constant companion. The sooner we accept this fact, the better we will be and the stronger we will become. And take us through the elements that helped you to continue to grow and get to the point where you decided it was time to share your story.
Sure. I think it's important to say this about the book. The book is not a bashing of my family book. It is a realization of what has happened and understanding that, and it took me a while to get here, that my family's story did not have to end in tragedy, as so many have. Many family stories like this are on the dunghill. They're just wasted and people don't get a chance to speak. So my view was my family story did not need to end in tragedy. It could be used to help other families and help brothers and sisters understand each other in this process and become allies as opposed to enemies, which is usually the case. My process, it took me a long time because, as I said, there was no place to go. There are no tools or systems for brothers. There are 12-step programs to just about anything. For brothers, there's not even a one-step program. Where are we to go? There's no one talks about it. So my process ended up being one that I had to understand that at my core, I'm a good guy, period. And I wanted to break a cycle in my family that apparently had been going on for generations. And understanding that in order for me to get there, I had to realize that I'm a victim that was the hardest part, understanding that I was a victim, because as a man, that's not the easiest thing to do. And how this came about, I was at a conference, Lisa Nichols conference, who's an outstanding author and speaker, and the topic of my book came up, and I shared a bit about it. And when I sat down, I was surrounded by tons of women, and I had no idea my brother was experiencing the things you're talking about. I had no idea this is what was going on. I just thought they didn't care. And it became so overwhelming. And I went out to the hall just to get away to catch my breath. And the double doors burst open and more women. And it was when 3 or 4 women said, I have lost brothers who killed themselves because they felt that they betrayed me, even though they didn't know. So what I began to think about as I was writing the book, this is trying to find hope somewhere. You've got to have those people, those places, those things, those memories that you can cling to, because you're in this void and it's like an abyss. You're just dropping down, 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 down constantly. And I had to find those people, places, and things that I could remember that would pull me up, because as you know, I had said earlier, it becomes part of your DNA and it manifests itself in ways that you don't understand. And the greatest manifestation of the problem is that it impacts, for brothers and oftentimes for men, our relationships with women. We don't fully understand that we are feeling this trauma. We think we're alone, and sometimes the manifestation can be pretty brutal. I have a couple of brothers who haven't been able to emotionally understand trauma for themselves, and how they are always able to communicate, even with my sisters, in a way that they probably should. They view my sisters from time to time as the villains as opposed to the victims, and that's not understanding the emotional impact that it's having on them, and not realizing I am a victim. So you have to be able to do that. So we did a lot of picnics growing up. One of the things my mother did, we did 3 picnics a year: Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July. And I think she did these as a way to try to give us something happy for the year, especially for my sisters. And I could cling to those and just think about all the times we were out there with 50, 60, 70 of our friends just playing. And that became a sense of hope for me. What also became a sense of hope is remembering the millions of times we were on stage together and just how much fun we had. It was just so much fun. And those memories can pull you back up. They can get you to remember who you are at your core. Because without those, and your realization that you're going to keep going down, your problem only becomes worse. There's just so much here.
Let's see if we can I do want to bring up your family photo on stage. And as we bring this up, so our audience can continue to take in the context of your story and your backstory. What was the feeling? Talk a little bit more about the level of connectedness that was on stage, and maybe elements that helped you hold on to any sort of connectedness going forward in later chapters, so to speak, in your life.
There was nothing like us being on stage. Absolutely nothing like it. You know, I long for those moments again. You know, I watch past videos, and knowing who we were and what we were, it was really interesting, because for family and friends, many of those viewed us as the perfect family. You know, many of them wanted to be in our family, obviously not knowing what was going on behind the scenes. So the connective tissue for us was our singing. As I said earlier, it kept us off the street. It kept us those were the tides that bound us together, knowing that no matter what was going on in the house, 2 or 3 times a week, 2 or 3 weeknights, rather weekdays, every week, we were going to be on stage together, and it wiped away all the stress, all the issues of the day and of the week that we were dealing with. So I look back at pictures, I hear songs that we sang on the radio, and I immediately just go right back to that, knowing that we were really fun together. We were really great together, and having those those anchor points, those things that tether you to reality, because it's really easy to just expand when you're alone and you think you're all by yourself and no one else understands. It's really easy to just say no one else gets it. So we had those moments. I think for me, those are the strongest moments. And yet there are songs that just send me back to just this hard time. The song that gets me every single time, you talk about the thing that connects me, is Gladys Knight and the Pips' Midnight Train to Georgia, because it always has that line, I want to go back to a time. And I immediately just go, I'm a mess, because for me, the greater times, the happy times were during my childhood, and yet they were also the saddest times. Uh, you have to be able to admit that you are a victim. And I didn't get it. If I can just briefly tell you, I did not understand I was a victim. About 10 years ago, my wife and I, we were in bed as I was writing the book, and she looks at me and she says, because I'm talking about some of the chapters that I've written, and she says, you're a victim. But I said, no, I'm not. And she says, yes, you are. How can you not see you are a victim? I said, I'm just telling you what I'm writing and what I'm feeling here. And she says, look at you. You're a mess. You're sweating. You are shaking. You are lost in thought. How can you not see you are a victim? Here I am, 55 years old, and I have not identified that I'm a victim until that moment. It rocked me. It broke me down, because how can I be a victim? I am a strong Black man. I got this. I don't have a problem with this. I'm trying to help my sisters when the reality is I'm trying to help me, because I cannot be strong for anybody unless I'm strong for myself first. That's when I realized I was a victim. So then the mission became, how do you go from victim to survivor to thriver? And that's where I am now. But it was all about first understanding that I'm a victim, and then the willingness to do the most difficult part. And any victim will tell you this. Any survivor will tell you this. You can talk in your head all day long. It is safe. No one's going to talk back to you. Everything you want to hear is absolutely perfect. I mean, your subconscious is in your corner. But that's not going to solve anything. I had to tell someone what happened. I had to admit what I should have done, because the power comes from being vocal. That stripped away my mother's power that was holding me back. It stripped away the power that my stepdad had, because as long as I kept silent, but more importantly, it released the shackles that my sister had put on me. Because me and my brothers, as I said earlier, we did not talk about it for years. And you have to find at least one person to talk to who will not judge you, who will only listen, who is really in your corner. Those are the two big things: the recognition that you're a victim, and then the willingness to do the hard work. And number one in that hard work is talk to somebody.
Extremely, extremely important. We're going to take a break. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about. And we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Keeper Catran-Whitney. He is the author of the book Helplessness, From Helplessness to Hopefulness to Happiness. It chronicles the family's journey from uncovering dark secrets of abuse, of sexual abuse, and rising above that and moving onward and upward. And Keeper, my question to you is, what has been the response since the decision was made, conversations were had, that the book was to be written? What's been the response of those closest to you from going from a private struggles to then making it public?
Wow. The very first response when I decided I was going to write this, Adriana, was, okay, I'm going to write this book. It's a brother's story. It's my story, so I have every right to tell the story. But I also know when you talk about the people closest to me and the impact, we're talking about my sisters and brothers. I knew I was going to have to tell them, not so much to get permission, but so that they would know what was coming. And the very first person I called was my second sister. And I said, I need to come over. I need to talk to you because I'm going to write something, and I want you to know about it. So I went over, and understand we hadn't had a conversation about this topic at all. It had been 45 years or so. And I went over to her house, and I remember standing outside her garage, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. I've just got this pull to write it. And I'm waiting for the explosion. How dare you? It's not your story. It's us girl's story. But what I got was, of course, you should tell the story. It's your story. It's you boys' story. People need to know what boys go through. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, you're supposed to give me the other answer. I'm in tears. I'm a mess. And so I figured, oh, okay, I've got to call this other sister, certainly the one who said you can't talk about it, and I know what I'm going to get there. But I have to do it because I owe them that. her response was the same. I'm like, okay, I understand the first sister, but certainly not yours. What are you talking about? You said we can't talk about it. And the evolution of her and my sisters on this was such that the boys have a story. I can't not stop them, but I cannot get in their way, but they do have a story to tell. And so as I began to tell other people about it, certainly the members of my family, extended aunts and uncles, they wanted nothing to do with it because they had a chance to step in and help us. We asked for their help and they wanted nothing to do with it. It's more of a generational thing. You know, back then, I don't know, whatever happened in your four walls, you stay there. But as my sisters could find help in articles and magazines or therapy, me and my brothers couldn't. There was nothing there. So for the people closest to me, some were incredibly supportive of my family, extended family, and others just didn't. As I began to talk more and more about it and say, this is not a story that is designed to attack you. It is designed to help others understand what is potentially happening in your family. Because in the United States, 160 children a day are sexually abused. That's just the United States. And this is what I know. Last night, some little kid went to bed and around 11 or 12 o'clock, someone entered their room. It's going to happen again tonight, 160 times. Tomorrow, it will happen again. And we as child sexual abuse survivors need people to understand we need help. At any given time in the United States, there are 140 million people walking the street who have been sexually abused as children. As a speaker for the RAIN network, which is the Rape and Incest network, the largest network in the United States, you learn that the biggest challenge for people is finding the strength to talk, to stand and own their space. Where there's a lot of conversation that can help women, there's no space for brothers, because oftentimes the people who could give us permission, our sisters, say, nope, you have no space. So we're here looking to elevate the voices of brothers, to give them information to know that they are not alone, because I really wished when I was going through this, there was someone there who could explain it to me, who could help me. My relationships with my brothers, three of my sisters, is absolutely fantastic now, but that took a long time. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of sacrifice. It took a lot of listening. It took a lot of back and forth of just sharing but you could have, and yes, I know, but you know how all those things go. We all do. But if you really want to get back together, if you really want to find a life together that is enjoyable, you have to be willing to do the work. And for me, it was picking up the phone and calling my second sister and say, I need to talk to you about something. And that just kind of opened up the gates for me to just walk through. You know, for me, it's really very much like walking in, you know, to heaven, like the pearly gates just opened up, because there's nothing like that feeling of when your family embraces you and accepts you for everything you know. It's often said your family, you can't talk to them about anything because you can't be a prophet in your own hometown. I mean, they know everything about you, which is true. But when they're willing to set that aside and allow you to talk and share what's really going on with you, it was great. One of my sisters read the book and she said to me afterwards, she said, I had no idea. I thought you boys just didn't care. I had no idea that this is what you've been carrying all these years. I'm sorry. I said, there's nothing for you to be sorry about. I'm just want to let you know this is what we are dealing with. It's PSD for us, and we need to have an outlet.
Very powerful example of fortitude. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. We've been spending quality time today with my guest, Keeper Catran-Whitney, the author of the book Helplessness, and from helplessness to hopefulness to happiness, chronicling his journey enduring sexual abuse in his family and overcoming this to share his story and a powerful message for all those who can learn from this and have takeaways of how to handle, how to grow from here. Keeper, where are you in terms of the internet and social media? Where can we find you?
People can certainly find me at my website at keepercatran-whitney.com. They can find me on Facebook, keepercatran-whitney.com, rather than .com, but Keeper Catran-Whitney, TikTok, Instagram, Keeper CW. Those are the places that people can follow me. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is such a powerful and riveting message that you are sharing of how to step into, embrace your truth, but also continue to show strength and have the conversations, having the courage, how to lean forward. What do you have going on for 2024? What can you share with our viewers?
Well, this has been an exciting year for me. This was certainly my year of yes. This is how I framed the year coming into it. I'm saying yes to everything and every possibility. And because of that, I have recently found out that I'm very close to being on a TEDx stage, which is really exciting. That could be a very powerful platform to elevate the voices of brothers. And earlier this week, I learned that my book, Helplessness, the option has been picked off to turn it into a screenplay for potential miniseries. So they are writing the screenplay of Helplessness right now. And obviously those processes can take quite a while, but that's exciting news to know that even as I begin to do this journey with the book and just being invited onto so many shows now, they're coming from all over. That my year of turning into yes is certainly becoming a yes.
Well, I know we are running out of time, but I certainly congratulations to you and the success of sharing your story, having the impact that it has and the exponential reach. Thank you so much for sharing your input and your feedback. Appreciate you spending time with us here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And for those of you who are watching, of course, you can find us on the web. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also email us with any show ideas that we would love to deliver for you. Upper left-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see that QR code. If it's quicker for you to grab, please feel free to do so. And then, of course, as always, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can find us on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, in any of the distribution channels that you are tuning into us using. That's all the time that we have. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.